Hello and welcome back to Tricolor Gaming with me, Fletcher. And welcome to my review of the final episode of Prehistoric Planet Season 2. This is the North America episode. If you haven't seen my reviews of the other 4 episodes of this season, do go and check those videos out. So what's my overall opinion of this final episode? I suppose it could be best summed up with the word, a bit of a damp squib. Let me explain why. This is a very peculiar episode that feels like it's been manufactured from recycled elements that came from other episodes. Let's just start with the premise of this episode. This is solely an episode about North America, and it is the only episode of any of the seasons of Prehistoric Planet focusing specifically on one continental region. You know, all the other episodes, there's specific habitats or specific biomes or specific ecosystems. So, you know, swamps, islands, forests, deserts, etc. This is the only one where it's specifically looking at North America. If I'm going to be cynical here for a moment, it's primarily because a lot of the North American animals we have already seen a lot of. We've already seen a lot of the T-Rex, we've already seen a lot of the Triceratops, the Quetzalcoatlus, the Nanuqsaurus from Season 1, the Ornithomimus from Season 1, the Mosasaurs. The episode is constructed with dinosaur and animal species we have already seen a lot of. There are basically 5 main sections to this episode. The first section, we have a very brief appearance of Alamosaurus. One of them, an adult, dies basically of old age. It's quite a poignant scene actually, it's quite a sad scene, but this is the only time that the Alamosaurus will show up. We don't spend a lot of time with them at all. You know, this has been set up to allow us to have the fight between the Rex and the Quetzalcoatlus that was teased in the trailer. And there are some Troodontids here that show up as well, but again, they're only there for the briefest moment, so they're not really that important. The main point of this scene is to have a fight between a T-Rex and 2 Quetzalcoatlus. It's a good scene, and I'm going to be saying this a lot about this episode. Each individual sort of focused scene, they're very good. But in the context of the episode, it doesn't really feel like a cohesive episode. And I don't really kind of understand the point of the episode. What are they trying to say about North America in this episode? So the 2 Quetzalcoatlus scare off the T-Rex from the body of the Alamosaurus eventually. One thing I would say about this particular scene, we at last have some T-Rex feeding on a dinosaur, and there's blood and there's flesh and there's obvious, you know, gaping injuries in the side of this Alamosaurus. And it is the first time in season 2 where we have had what I would consider a realistic, non-censored feeding of a dinosaur on another dinosaur, which is something I will discuss more in my overall review of the season when I come to do it next week. After the T-Rex and Quetzalcoatlus fight, we then move to the next scene, which is solely about a species of mosasaur hunting ammonites. And again, it's a very interesting scene. This is a particular species of mosasaur called Mosasaurus globinens, and basically it has rounded teeth that are designed, they think, to crush ammonite shells. But again, while it's an interesting scene, I can't help but think this kind of should have been in yesterday's episode where we were looking at mosasaurs. Why didn't you have this in yesterday's episode as another different type of mosasaur? Why is it here? Especially since yesterday's episode was solely focused on oceans, and we had a very big chunk of ammonites and a very big chunk of mosasaurs. So it feels like it's in the wrong place, it's in the wrong episode, and it's a repeat of stuff we've already seen. It's nice, but it doesn't really fit here. The next scene is one of the few scenes in this episode where we have solidly new species on screen. We have these Pectinodon, which are sort of a member of I think they're Troodontids or raptors. And we have an adult and some babies, and they're hunting flies that have spawned around this poisonous toxic pool, as well as these relatives of ducks, these primitive birds basically. It's a nice scene. scene. There's some interesting behaviors, there's a little bit of cute baby action, and no babies die in this particular moment, which is also nice to see. But again, it feels like this particular environment, this poisonous toxic pool, would have suited the Badlands episode more than this particular episode. It's a toxic poisonous water pool. I mean, that would have really fitted with the Badlands environment that they were going for. And then after this particular scene, we have a period of time where we're looking at Triceratops, and they're basically in their rutting season. I would say the Triceratops are beautiful. This is one of the most beautiful depictions of Triceratops I have seen in a long time. It's got this nice striped body, and they all have these colourful frills. The female frills are not as colourful as the male frills, but they're all colourful in some respect. And when you look at sort of this depiction of Triceratops versus, say, Jurassic World Evolution 2's depiction of Triceratops, Prehistoric Planet 2's Triceratops, they're just beautiful. I would petition that we need to change its name from three-horned ugly face to three-horned beautiful face, frankly. There is a humorous element to this part as well, because basically the story goes that the female Triceratops are only interested in the male Triceratops if the males have sort of battle scars and have evidence of fighting and stuff like that. It's true that even in the dinosaur world, chits dig scars. However, this is a species we've already seen. Season 1, there was a whole section devoted to Triceratops as well. We've had Triceratops on screen already, so why are we having Triceratops again? Could we not have had a different species of ceratopsian? Could we not have had a different animal here? There's lots and lots of American dinosaurs for this time period that we could have seen on the show. Torosaurus, for example, instead of Triceratops. But instead we're getting Triceratops again because, you know, again, if I'm being cynical, the model exists, the animations exist. They've already done the work for season 1, so they can just use the Triceratops again in season 2 because it's quick. And then the end of the episode focuses on Nanuqsaurus hunting down Ornithomimus in this cold, icy north of the continent. And again, it feels like this should have been part of the ice episode from season 1. And in fact, it's kind of just a direct copy because, you know, the Nanuqsaurus attempts to hunt these Ornithomimus down first time, fails, and then it succeeds the second time. In fact, it is a kind of predictable nature of this documentary series that the first attack, if it fails, the second attack will automatically succeed. Again, it's a nice active shot of the Nanuqsaurus hunting the Ornithomimus. Again, it's censored, there's no blood anywhere, even though it bites it through the neck, but again, I'll talk more about that in my overall roundup of the whole season. It feels like this doesn't really fit for this particular episode, and that's the end of the episode. It literally just ends with the end of that fight. There's no book ending, and what I mean by book ending is the end of season 1, you had that great shot of the Haplogopteryx flying off into the sunset. It felt like a natural ending to the episode and the season. This season and this episode, it just ends. It just kind of stops, and it doesn't really feel like it's finished. It feels like there's another episode to come. I feel like they were lacking a sort of bookend ending shot for the episode, a chance for David Attenborough to say something significant. And actually something that's been suggested to me is that in the editing wise for this particular episode, the Quetz fight with the Rex probably should have been at the end of the episode. The episode should have started with the old Alamo dying, and we should have then had the other bits of the episode, and then at the end of the episode we should have come back to that dead Alamo, and we should have had the Rex and Quetzalcoatlus fight at the very end, a sort of triumphant fight at the end of the episode. I think that would have been better than this just kind of this very, I want to say bland, because it is just a dinosaur hunt. There's not very many interesting behaviors actually in this episode. It's just dinosaur hunting another dinosaur attacking another dinosaur, or the Triceratops rutting. They're good behaviors to see, but there's nothing that stands out like the Carnotaurus arm dance from season 1, for example. There's nothing that really stands out in this episode for me. I think if I was going to rate this episode, I would have this as probably the worst of the episodes. It's definitely not as good as Islands, it's not as good as Swamps, it's not as good as Badlands, and I think the ocean episode is just a bit better because it the ocean episode focuses solely on the ocean and it doesn't try to force other bits in. I definitely think this is the weakest of the episodes. It doesn't feel as cohesive. It feels like it's been manufactured from cut content and little bits here and there that have been thrown together. However, even the worst of these episodes is light years ahead of shows like Dinosaur with Stephen Fry, for example, or Dinosaur Fight Club, for example. Even if this is a weak episode, and even if this is a weak season overall, it is still better than 99% of dinosaur documentaries around. Walking with Dinosaurs and this, they are the two top documentaries around, and this is still good dinosaur documentary, even if in comparison it might not be as strong as other episodes. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying here. I still think it's a good program and I still think it's a good episode, but I have to, I'm trying to review the episodes from a position of impartiality, and I do think there are problems with this episode and this season as a whole. But I will go more into what I think of the season as a whole in my overall review, which I might try and do over the weekend, but it will probably be early next week instead, because I want to kind of get some thoughts together. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this particular episode and this particular season as a whole. What's been your favorite episode of the season as a whole so far? What's your favorite species of the season? And I will see you in the next video. Until then, stay safe and goodbye.